Hello and welcome to TLDR on Earshot, where we address the questions everyone's asking and we make it crisp and fast. I'm Deepavali. Reports say Iran and US are close to a breakthrough that could end the 3-month-long war in the Middle East. Now, there were reports of a one-page memo that is nearing finalization, and this is the closest that Iran and US has ever been to a peace deal. Everything now hinges on Iran. So let's unpack the latest developments. I have senior journalist Gaurav Choudhury joining us on the show. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Deepavali, for having me.
So what are the major conditions that have been outlined in the memo for an end to the war in the Middle East?
See, there are too many things floating around right now. So that's the $1,000,000 question, or if I may say so, the $1,000,000 question, because oil is at the center point of all of this here. What we hear is that there is a 14-point peace plan. In that, it's a single-page memo. It's not I would not call it a treaty yet. It's probably, the two sides are getting across the table and putting the pens on the piece of paper and staring down at each other and trying to go through each of the points. If you assume that to be true. So one of the things that there has to be a nuclear freeze on Iran must commit to a strict moratorium. Second, there is a money trail, of course. US would lift the sanctions that it had imposed on Iranian assets, and that runs into hundreds of billions of dollars. There also the question of shipping lanes. Now, the whole thing is that both sides will have to stop playing the cat and mouse game now, so far as the Strait of Hormuz is concerned, because it's in the interest of the world and humanity here that both sides will have to ensure unhindered transit of oil and gas across the world, because that is the most important transit point, and right now it's in Iranian control. And, Iran is also pushing for a complete withdrawal of US forces from the region. That seems to be a tall order at this point. But this is what we know, and these are the broad pillars on which the discussions seem to be taking place, but we would not know until it is signed yet.
Yes. So now officials had been optimistic even before, but negotiations earlier had also fallen through. So how promising do the developments look?
No, we have been here before. Will they, won't they? And we've been here several times before. There have been reports that something has been sealed, signed and delivered. And it's been a long-running saga, not just from, we don't have to just limit our analysis or evaluation of what's happening between Iran and the US only from February 28, 2026 onwards. But this time it appears a little different. If I may say, it feels a little different. There has been a ceasefire, although fragile it may appear, but both sides are holding on to it. So that's in place. And US President Trump has indicated and has said that the deal is very possible. So clearly, we have just seen the US administration come out and say that Operation Epic Fury is over, which means clearly we are close to it. And he has also put on hold Project Freedom, which is the US military operation in the region. The specific operation, of course, was Epic Fury. So what this has done is that the ceasefire and the ensuing time, it has given diplomacy a bit of a breathing space, which was required. That said, however, skepticism remains very high, because Iran has also talked about American foolishness, and the US naval blockade continues to redirect Iranian ships. I don't think it's a handshake. We have reached a handshake moment yet. If it were, that'd be great news for the world.
So the war, the impact of the war is also spilling over to the Indian economy.
Yeah.
So if this stretches on, what could its impact be?
No, it's clearly, we are greatly dependent on imported crude oil, and the Indian economy is expanding at a certain pace. So our imported crude oil dependency and the bottleneck and the choke points on the Strait of Hormuz clearly has had a cascading effect on India's broader economy. Oil prices have gone up. It's now hovering around $110 a barrel, which is significantly higher than what it was in February, last week of February. And if the petroleum prices at some point will have to go up, because oil marketing companies cannot keep on losing price. Oil marketing companies like the Indian Oil Corporation, BPCL and HPCL are reportedly losing about rupees 18 per litre on petrol and about rupees 35 per litre on diesel. So if the conflict stretches, I don't think the government will continue or oil marketing companies will continue to keep on holding prices at the levels that they are. We could see some price hikes. If this continues to stretch, let's wait and watch and keep our fingers crossed. Because the current round of state elections have concluded, so there was already some anticipation that after the state elections prices will go up. That hasn't happened yet. That said, a prolonged war could likely push up crude oil prices more, which would mean the landed price of crude oil could cascade through to the pump gates, and that would mean tanking up could become costlier.
Right. So far, what measures has the Indian government taken to protect the economy?
So what has happened is that there are a couple of things that we need to look at. Now, where are that we are getting affected? One, of course, is the crude oil. Because crude oil is getting costlier, so that is why fuel costs are getting costlier. And when fuel cost gets costlier, it has a cascading, it knocks up prices, because moving goods from one point A to point B within the country goes up. Not just commuting, but also moving goods. So when moving goods goes up, it fans inflation, and that has a cascading effect on everything that we do. In terms of inflation, the cost of living goes up. That is one part of it. The other thing is, of course, that we have some export interests in the Middle East. So exporters who were exporting to the Middle East, they have got seriously affected. So that at some point in time, if this continues, then that could have a serious effect on their businesses fundamentally, which could force them at some point in time, at the worst case scenario, force them to cut down on capacity line and also try to reduce their headcount of people, so would result in layoffs. So India has to look aggressively beyond the Middle East now, for sources of crude oil, as also export diversification. The government has recently come out with a cabinet has recently come out with a plan, a credit line kind of support for particularly medium and small enterprises, and one specifically for aviation companies, because they have always faced the wrong end of the stick from this, because crude prices are going up, means ATF prices have gone up, and that has hit the operational costs significantly. So until this point, however, there has been a fiscal cushioning that the government has brought about. That said, however, I think the government is keeping a close eye on it, both the RBI and the government. The thing is that if inflation continues to rise because of higher crude oil prices, at some point in time, the RBI's Monetary Policy Committee can be prompted or inclined to raise interest rates. When that goes up, it could result in housing AMIs going up. That could mean a double whammy for households. But let's just hope that very soon the U.S. administration and Iran arrive at a meeting point midway somewhere.
Yes, of course. But finally, sir, does the ongoing conflict have an impact on India's fastest growing economy status? And what do you think are the biggest lessons India can take away from this war?
So does this war threaten India's fastest growing title? In short, yes. It's a drag. If the war ends soon, we can soon go back to a 7% plus kind of a growth rate. However, a prolonged conflict could bring down the growth rates to significantly lower than 7%, and that risk is always there, and it could actually come down closer to 6% or even less, and that is going to be a debilitating from a broader macroeconomic point of view. Just as a thumbnail, as a broad back of the envelope formula, every 10% rise in oil prices, crude oil prices, can shave off 0.2% of India's GDP. So we have seen that going up since February, last week of February. If it continues to rise or remain elevated, and of course it will have a bearing on the headline inflation growth rates, GDP growth rates. The big lessons, of course, are that we need to look at our energy autonomy, and that's a long-term thing again. We have strategic reserves, so that has acted as a bit of a cushion. We have depending on strategic reserves and crude oil that is coming in, and also lying with the oil marketing companies, we have close to 50 to 60 days of oil reserves. So, but we have to build supply chain resilience. We have to look beyond Middle East so far as exports and oil sources are concerned, and have to find a way of creating more shock absorbers.
Well, thank you very much, sir, for breaking that down for us in such detail. And that's all on this episode. Thanks to our viewers for listening. Stay tuned to TLDR for more. Until the next episode, take care and goodbye.
Thank you.
You are listening to Earshot Podcasts. Find us on our website, earshot.in, on YouTube at Earshot Media, and download our app, Earshot, Indian Podcast app.